What do you get when you try to recapture the magic of the original Pacific Rim without the help of much of the original cast or director Guillermo del Toro? Well, then you get a film with a lackluster narrative that falters in comparison to its superior predecessor. I'm Zach from the Five Nights Tavern, and today we will be looking at what many consider to be the death of a promising franchise, Pacific Rim Uprising. Let's get started. Directed by Stephen S. DeKnight and starring the likes of John Boyega, Callie Spaney, Scott Eastwood, as well as returning cast members such as Charlie Day, Bern Gorman, and Rinko Kikuchi, Pacific Rim Uprising was released on March 23, 2018, and with a budget of $150 million before marketing, the film went on to be a colossal flop, making only around $291 million at the box office. Before we go any further, I want to give a spoiler warning for this film. It is relatively recent, and even though it is generally considered to be far worse than the original, there are still some interesting parts of this film, so if you want to check it out with a fresh mind, stop here. For everyone else, let's take a quick look at the story. The film follows Jake Pentecost, played by John Boyega, son of the legendary Stacker Pentecost, who is living as a trader in a war-torn section of California 10 years after the end of the Kaiju War. Trading mainly stolen Jaeger parts, he soon meets a young girl named Amara who has built her very own Jaeger out of scrap. After being arrested, Jake and Amara are given a chance to join the Jaeger program by Jake's sister Mako. From here, we witness the events of a growing threat in the form of rogue Jaegers and a sinister plot involving the new drones that only Jake and his friends can stop. I struggled for a while to decide on if I should do a full plot synopsis, but there really is too much to discuss there. Instead, I figured I'd break down the film into what I liked and disliked personally. Let's start with the new Jaeger lineup. First, we have Guardian Bravo, armed with a kick-ass electric whip to entangle foes. Next up, we've got Bracer Phoenix, an older model Jaeger that has a unique turret feature where a third pilot can control a massive gun turret on the center of the Jaeger. Next up, we have Saber Athena, the fastest and most nimble of the Jaegers, with dual-wielding blades and the capability to perform many martial arts tricks. Then there's Obsidian Fury, a Kaiju Jaeger hybrid that terrorizes our heroes while being controlled by a Kaiju brain. We then have Scrapper, an interesting little Jaeger designed and built by Amara. This nimble one-man mech can roll into a ball for a speedy getaway. And finally, we have Gypsy Avenger. Created in honor of the legendary Gypsy Danger, she serves as the flagship of the Jaeger fleet and possesses a new gravity sling, able to pick up and throw objects at any enemy. Overall, I'm a fan of these new Jaegers. They have smartly abandoned the idea of defeating Kaiju through brute force alone, and instead have adopted speed and agility to outmaneuver the hulking beasts. I'm also a fan of the drone Jaegers as well as rogue Jaegers. It seems like a logical step to begin automating the mechs, and seeing these Jaeger-Kaiju hybrids is a fascinating twist. The world itself is also interesting. Seeing the post-war world recovering and getting an up-close look at how people trade in old Jaeger tech for things as mundane as Oreos or hot sauce, it really does show just how different this world has become for so many. The Jaeger fights themselves are also really fun to watch, but they suffer from a few problems that we will discuss a little bit later. What I will say right now is that it's very fun to actually watch a group of Jaegers fight together as a team. That was a point that was sorely lacking in the previous films. In terms of characters, Jake Pentecost is an interesting one, and it is really nice to see him interact with the others. His on-screen chemistry with Mako is welcome and makes the audience feel like these two have been part of a family. His transition into becoming a mentor to Amara is also really fun to watch, and their back-and-forth banter is entertaining. His sort of rivalry with Lambert is also quite well done, with them going from seemingly hating each other to putting aside their differences and rekindling their old friendship by the end of the film. All of that was really good stuff, and I would have liked to see more of it. Unfortunately, not all the characters were treated so kindly, but we'll get to that soon enough. Although so far I have been fairly positive about this film, the problems that it has will quickly overwhelm whatever good it does have going for it, and proceeds to drown what could have been a really great sci-fi film. Let's talk about the rest of the cast. Although we do get several new faces, this film is sorely missing Charlie Hunnam, who played the main character Riley in the first film, as well as Ron Perlman, who played Hannibal Chow. Idris Elba is also missing from the film, but for more obvious reasons. But aside from John Boyega, the new cast struggles to bring forth the same on-screen presence as the three mentioned before. I feel like the film really needed at least Hunnam to return to his role to help out. Maybe as the marshal or a pilot that needed to come out of retirement. It would have also been nice to see him alongside Rinko Kikuchi, who plays Mako, as those two had terrific on-screen chemistry in the previous film. Jake is also kind of a strange character when you think about it. For as good as I thought John Boyega did with him, seeing that Stacker Pentecost had a son that was never mentioned before is strange and can be seen as detrimental as the audience struggles to accept this new character and where he comes from. Maybe it would have been better if he wasn't directly related, but was instead maybe brought into the Jaeger program by Riley or Mako. Charlie Day's character Newt is also pretty much completely wrecked here. In the previous film, Newt was a bit crazy and eccentric, but he was clearly a good guy and was one of the main reasons why humanity won the war. To see him reduced to being an over-the-top vessel for the aliens was kind of sad to watch, actually, and I would have liked to see him at least redeemed in some sort of way, especially since he's essentially the main villain of this film. The new character, Liwen Xiao, is also kind of strange. She is initially portrayed as a shady businesswoman type, and we're led to believe that she is going to be our villain. But after Newt is revealed, her behavior does a complete 180 and she becomes a likable and capable member of the team completely out of nowhere. I feel like this part should have just been Mako instead of a new character, because Mako seems to have almost an obsession with the Jaegers, and it would have made sense for her to develop these new autonomous drones to prevent any more of her loved ones from dying in combat. Speaking of Mako, though, this film completely wastes her. Killing her off before the halfway point in the film in a way that's supposed to make us feel bad for Jake for losing his sister. But to waste one of the main characters from the previous film does little more than piss off fans of the franchise and take them out of the film. The Jaegers are also a bit of a problem here. Although I mentioned that I do enjoy their designs, they don't feel as realistic as the previous ones. There's basically no weight to any of their movements. You don't feel their footsteps, or you don't feel like there's thousands of tons of steel winding up for every punch. They're too fast and floaty, and they don't really feel like they're actually there. Like, it just doesn't feel quite the same as the original movie. It's kind of hard to describe it in words, but if you go back to the original Pacific Rim, and you watch Gypsy Danger wind up a punch, there's this wind-up time as the fists start to move into position, and you can hear the gears whirling as it starts to build up strength. And this one, the Jaegers don't really seem mechanical. They almost seem like they're just basically big humans swinging punches around. Another problem comes when there's a realization that the kaiju haven't just been attacking random cities for the hell of it, but instead they've all supposedly been heading towards Mount Fuji in Japan in order to set off the volcano there. This makes sense if you don't think about it at all, or if you don't consider about where we've seen kaijus head to before in these movies. For example, the very first kaiju we see in the original Pacific Rim is attacking San Francisco, California. Then we see Gypsy Danger defending Anchorage, Alaska. And hell, in this film, we see Amara's family get killed by a kaiju that is once again attacking California. Now, I'm no expert in world geography, but if a kaiju was trying to get to Japan, it sure as hell wouldn't hit California or Alaska on the way there. Another thing that this film is sorely lacking is style. What I mean by that is the choice of colors within the film. Most of the time, it's a bright, sunshiny day with the crisp, clean CGI Jaegers standing out like sore thumbs. In the original film, it was almost always a dark and stormy night, with high contrast colors giving the film its own unique look. When you look at them side by side, you can really see what I mean here. One of them is clearly a lot more stylized than the other, and it shows. Finally, I really want to talk to you guys about a very specific scene in the film that completely took me out of it. Picture this. The Jaegers are taking off to face down the kaiju for a climactic battle. The dramatic music is playing. You can see the worry and determination on the faces of all of our heroes, and you're getting pumped for an epic battle scene. And then this shit plays.
What the hell?
My grandmother used to play it for me. Keeps me calm.
What about me? Not calm, man, not calm!
Hearing this made me say, "What the hell?" out loud in a theater. And I wasn't the only one confused by it. I guess it was meant to be sort of a comic relief moment, but it felt so out of place that it really changed the attitude of the entire audience in the theater, and it took a lot to bring us back into it. What can I say? It was just weird. Overall, this film may not be as bad as many others say it is, but it is certainly worse than the original. There really is no doubt as to why this film failed and damn near killed the entire franchise. Thankfully, there is hope in a brand new animated series coming to Netflix sometime in 2021. Hopefully, and I say hopefully, it can wash the taste of this film out of the mouths of all the disappointed fans and bring the franchise back. But until it comes out, I'm Zach from the Five Nights Tavern, and as always, cheers.